Hello and welcome to another episode of Senior Living Sales and Marketing. I'm Roy. We're going to have with us today as a guest Denice Bailey with the D Bailey Group. We're going to be talking about a few different topics, kind of on the sales side, more sales than marketing, but it's going to be all kind of all encompassing. So, Denice, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Roy?
I am good, good. Got the dog stowed away, so I'm getting much better now. Anyway, well, let's just jump right into it. The first thing that we talked about is that the sales process, especially at the community level, is such a team effort. And, as you visit communities, you realize that the receptionist is generally the very first impression that you get if you didn't, if you haven't called ahead, if you just are a walk in. So it's important to get them, especially, but also the all the staff on board learning how to greet visitors and just kind of learning those different techniques of, I guess, how we need to act in front of somebody that's in our community for the first time.
I agree, Roy. I can't echo your sentiment enough. And part of that, I believe, and I think you might agree with me as well, but I believe that is a culture and it comes down from the top. And if the top assures that their entire team, and it doesn't matter who on the team within the organization or within the home, does not feel empowered or part of the team, and they need to understand and respect and realize how their actions and their interactions could make a huge difference for the home.
Exactly. Yeah. And I fault us as managers because we don't, in our orientation, in our onboarding, we don't really go into how key that certain positions are because of that. And, I've mystery shopped a lot of communities and come in and find somebody reading a book that, it's like their head's in a book and they just pop their eyes over. They really can't even take the time to give you the attention to find out why you've even walked into their community that day. So,
you have shared with me a fabulous example, and obviously I remembered it because I'm going to bring it up again about how a community, there wasn't, the marketing manager wasn't there, the administrator wasn't there, and it ended up being someone in the kitchen that gave the tour, and it was a fabulous tour. Didn't you share that with me not too
yeah,
long ago?
yes, I did. I was out of town traveling and went to a community, and like you said, well, first off, marketing manager was busy. They didn't have a receptionist. The executive director was out of pocket, and they had a businessman. I don't know. There was like a business manager, the head nurse. I mean, we got like 5 or 6 deep, but the kitchen manager came out of the kitchen all smiles and said, "Hey, you know what? Everybody's tied up. I'd be glad to walk you around." And it was a fabulous tour. I mean, it was very personable. The young man knew the community left and right, which, somebody had to give him some direction to know that. He didn't just walk in knowing that, which I thought's fabulous because I've been on the other side of the coin to walk in and then say, "Sorry, there's nobody here. I can help you. Maybe you can come back." And, in
Lost
any business, when
opportunity, lost opportunity. Oh, sorry.
exactly. Now that's what it is. It's like, it's manna from heaven when somebody walks into your business, no matter what kind of business it is. You have to have a plan. I mean, you have to have an A, B, C, and D plan to make sure that they are taken care of when they walk in. So yeah, it was something else. And then just the behavior, because the other thing that I've encountered is walk in receptionist is grapping to their coworker about how somebody took too long for lunch or didn't do this. And last thing I want to do if I'm going to put my loved one into your community is, we're already, the infighting and griping and things like that. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it doesn't need to take place right out where everybody can see.
No, it doesn't need to be It doesn't need to be broadcast. It's like family business, it needs to stay within the organization.
Exactly. Yeah, that, or you call in and receptionist, they think that they're doing the right thing by eating, being on their desk and eating, but they answer the phone with a big bite in their mouth, and you can't understand them from chewing food. Just little things like that.
Well,
Something
what
else that. Oh, go
one of
ahead.
my big
Yeah.
gripes, and it's not just within communities like this, I think it happens across all industries right now, or not just right now, but it seems kind of prevalent right now, is you answer the phone and the person you're supposed to talk to, not the receptionist, but someone whose responsibility is to take care, maybe it's billing, whatever, and it sounds like I woke them up. And I have found
Right.
myself saying, have I awoken you from a nap or something today? No. And I said, well, maybe we could and I want to say, then why don't you put yourself in the best presentation that your company would appreciate? And don't sound
Right.
like I just woke you up from a nap.
Yeah, a little enthusiasm if you're going to be on the phone never
Just
hurts.
a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, kind of along that same lines, is that if if you have a spat with your spouse, or if somebody upsets you, sometimes it's okay just to say, what, I need to step away from this prospect facing for just a little bit while I gather myself up. And I think the leaders of the company would much rather see that than you uh, taking that out on them. And that's one thing I asked the lady that cuts my hair when I walk in, and she's got some scissors up around my ears. I always ask her if she had a fight with her spouse or her kids made her mad, because I sure don't want to lose an ear because of that. So,
Yeah.
it's a good thing to, but here again, I think this is where we fail as managers, is we really don't take the time to sit down and explain all of these things to people. And just
It
how
comes from the
important that they
top
really
down
are.
every single time.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the other thing we had on our list is I think it's a great idea to use professionals to bring them in to speak not only to your residents, but take that as an opportunity to invite prospects back in. I mean, if somebody's, even if they've not come in, but if they've come in, they've toured, you kind of gave them a little bit of a sales nudge, and they still haven't made a decision. Um, Inviting them kind of in a non-threatening manner to come back is an awesome idea.
Oh, I agree. And the rewards are tenfold on how that can happen, and oftentimes you find your professionals, be it the attorney or the estate planner or whomever it might be, oftentimes I've seen the attorney or the estate planner or whomever, say, listen, I have a few customers or a few clients that would like to hear this. Do you mind if I invited them? So I think it would be well served for the community who's hosting the professional. Say, listen, Roy, if you have any customers that you feel would be beneficial to hear this, I'd welcome them to come and join us when you're here on Tuesday or whatever.
Right. Yeah, asking for that referral, especially in a group, like in a group kind of rate referral, to get multiple people from the professional. And I fall guilty. Take blame or be guilty of this a lot. Is that just don't think about asking some people for that referral. And referrals are such a cheap source to acquire a new customer of any kind, but especially, in the senior living.
Well, I prefer the term cost efficient than cheap, but
Right. Yeah.
referrals are very cost efficient. And a lot of times that referral is that's the hottest lead you can get. You can't
Right.
buy those
Exactly.
you can't
Exactly.
even if you had the money or would want to pay for it, you still can't buy those hot leads like that.
Yeah, talking about referrals, the lawyers, the CPAs, the doctors, uh, all those professionals, are great sources because they are all authority figures to either the prospects or their family members who are helping them. And so they trust them a lot with their recommendations or any suggestions. But also, I think you enable that professional if you've asked them to come out and share their wisdom. You know, people like to come out and sometimes they like to come out and help. Sometimes they like to come out and hear themselves talk. I guess it really doesn't matter. If they can deliver some good information, then, you know, we want them, that will kind of encourage them. Let's say that would encourage them to make those referrals, even if they're not coming out to speak, you know, just, you know, maybe they come out once a quarter and put on some kind of a seminar for everybody, but we kind of keep them engaged from visit to visit to keep referring their clients as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're stroking their ego. That's the best way to explain it.
Exactly.
And
So,
you know what? And I don't fault them. We all like to have, you know, we all like to be complimented either directly or indirectly like that on our expertise. So anytime any of us have the opportunity to showcase or feature our wisdom, we're all for it. And I'm a little guilty right now.
Right, exactly. No, we all are. And but also it gives them an opportunity to pick up clients, because then you may be introducing them to one of your residents or to another prospect. So it's reciprocal. And I think, you know, that is something I look for when people reach out to me and they want to, you know, see how we can help each other. My experience is generally they want to reach out and see how I can help them. And so we have to really have a mindset of reciprocation. If we're going to ask somebody to do something for us, how can we help them out in return?
It needs to be mutually beneficial.
Exactly. So let's talk about phone calls converting to tours. You know, that's important. That's the bottom line, is we want to, you know, get the family, get the prospect, whoever is going to be a decision maker, we want to reach out and get them into the community for sure. And I know I've listened to a lot of phone calls where we have a script that we feel like we've got to get through, and we blow through some, what I'd call some, you know, maybe not buying cues, but some cues to say, let's just schedule this and move on. So have you got some tips on what can we do to position ourselves with phone calls to, you know, turn them into tours more often?
Well, I think you hit on it a little bit already right there, Roy, is, and I think human nature is, and I read an article the other day on this, is we like to think we are listeners, but human nature is we're not listening as we should be. We're too eager we're listening enough just to respond. And sometimes that's an opportunity, or let me rephrase that. Sometimes the disadvantage of that is we are missing opportunities because we're too focused on, oh, I need to say this, I need to say this. And we don't hear that next thing. So I think we all, and I'm guilty of it too, Roy, I think we all have to just take a deep breath and listen with intent and not listen to respond. And
yeah. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You interrupted.
Yeah, I did. I was too eager to talk.
But I think if we listen with intent and not listen to respond, you can take notes, you know, and you can listen, and part of that, you have discovered opportunities. And so when somebody says something, as you listen, you can go back to that and say, you know, a minute ago, when I was listening to you talk about X, Y, and Z, you mentioned dining and how your loved one has not had a good dining experience, Roy. I'd like to have you out at dinner. I'd like for you to be my guest here for dinner one night and come see how our dining experience for our community is unparalleled to others that you may be considering at this time.
Yeah, that's an awesome idea. And that's what I was going to say is that a lot of times in the conversation, it's okay to say, can I take notes? Do you mind if I take notes? It helps me to be a better listener instead of trying to remember. You've said 4 things already that I would like to respond to or tell you more about. Now I've got to try to hold on to these until you get through talking, and then I haven't really heard anything else because I'm so focused on remembering these things. So ask. It's
You
not a
know what?
sign
I
of
didn't
weakness
ask,
that you
but I
have to
did it
write
anyway.
something down.
I didn't ask, but I did it anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Right.
I didn't know. I should have asked.
Yeah, when I on the phone I do it, but like if I'm in person, I always like to put them at ease. I'm not taking secret notes on them or something like that. That this is just to help me remember what I want to talk about. And there's that old saying that that's why God gave us 2 ears and only one mouth, because maybe we're supposed to be listening twice as much as we're talking, which that's always good advice.
You know what I have to do sometimes, Roy? If I'm on the phone at my office, in my office, and I need to listen with intent and not listen to respond. I have some post-it notes. I don't have them here in front of me, but I have a post-it note. Each of them are this size, and they spell out the word listen, and I put them on my monitor. So every time I
That's a
go
good
to,
idea.
look up, I see it right there. Or
Right,
even just
right.
a single L helps. Because
Yeah,
again, that's human nature. I don't think any of us are born superior listeners. I think we all, and again, I'm preaching to myself on this. I think we all have tremendous room for improvement with listening. And when you listen and can take notes, then you uncover tremendous opportunities.
right. The other thing that we're always doing too, I think, when you take notes and when we listen intently, is we are building in awesome follow-up opportunities, because um, I don't know what the numbers are today, but typically it's between 8 to 12 touches before you close somebody.
Mhm.
So
At least. Mhm.
yeah, so if we're sitting down with somebody on that first, where we're just fact finding, gathering information, unless their need is very, very high, we're probably not going to close them immediately. So instead of, in 3 days from now, instead of just calling and saying, hey, are you ready to buy yet? Are you ready to move in yet? We can have that, what I call thoughtful follow up. If we learn that they like to paint, then we can, call and say, hey, we're having a painting class, or talk about painting, gardening, whatever their hobbies or whatever their interests are. It creates a good follow up that we can start a conversation, and they don't feel like that they're just getting beat up every time they see your name come up on the phone, like, oh, the guy's going to ask me if I'm ready again. I know he is.
I love that idea. I love that idea. And I think, again, everyone wants to be invited. Everyone likes to be invited. And like you said, be it a painting class, or maybe it's a wine tasting class, or whatever the case may be, to take those notes and listen with intent, and then use that as part of your follow-up. Is, you don't get a better opportunity to have a good touch, if you will,
Right.
in the sales cycle than saying, listen, you shared with me your father enjoys painting, and we have a guest artist coming in Thursday to do a painting class.
Right.
Why don't you come see? Or if your father feels like he'd like to come see, be our guest, come join the class. Even as a non-resident, you can come join our class.
Yeah, while we're on the soapbox, follow up is definitely on my soapbox, because, I think it's not just this industry, it's all over. We are so, we want instant gratification a lot, that, we reach out. If you don't buy, then I'm off to the next person, instead of taking that time to drip, in farming. It's we sow, cultivate, and then we reap. We don't go from sowing to reaping the harvest in that one step. And so trying to develop those opportunities. And another great question is, how do you want me, to follow up with you? People are pretty smart and intuitive. They know you're going to reach out to them one way or the other. Let's at least try to ask them, what is their preferred method of contact? Just God forbid somebody would text my mother. She might see it in a month from now, but that is not the best way to follow up with her. And, my kids, following up with them through voicemail. You can't even leave a voicemail because it's full. They just don't check them. And so, trying to find out what everybody's preferred method, it's a must ask. And it's not bad. I mean, it's not a surprise like, oh my God, you mean you're going to follow up with me? Like, no, they know you're going to stay after them. So
I agree. Yeah. And I think that's a courtesy to anyone, a customer, a prospective customer, a colleague, is what is your how would you prefer me to, keep in touch with you?
Right.
I just, and again, we could talk about this ad nauseum, but there are so many missed opportunities. I have had, even myself, I've, via the professional social media platform, I've received, we do this, we do that. Would you be interested? And I say, yeah, let's schedule a demo. And I bet I could get on there and identify 6 people that they had me going to the next stage of the buying cycle. And it was crickets.
Yeah. Right. No, that's me too. Like, especially on a follow-up phone call, there's sometimes that somebody reached out. I'm like, yeah. And it's not a blow off, but it's like something was going on right that minute. It's like, yeah, if you could just get back with me, in a couple of days when I have some time to think about it, talk about it, and then you just never hear from them again. So, but I think sometimes we can take away from that too. Is that how we're going to be treated, if we were to become a customer? And so, again, it gets back to a company culture type thing, is we need to, again, it starts at the top, but we need to express to our sales representatives, how do we want to be represented in the community? And it's as a caring, loving, nurturing environment is usually what we want to be.
I agree.
So, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that there are too many businesses vying for the same customer. And I'm not saying all those businesses are doing it well, but just like what you said, think about how you want to be treated, and
Right.
and try to try to replicate that. I had a sales manager once, and very early in my career, said, if you go to McDonald's and you order a cheeseburger with no onions, just meat, cheese only, and you get that burger and it comes and it's loaded with everything, onions and all, what's the first thing that you do? And I said, well, I take it back. I paid for it. I want it right. Well, that's how we need to think about how we want our customers to feel. Not that they're getting a cheeseburger with onions when we ask for no onions. And that cheeseburger, again, I'm showing my age here, at McDonald's was probably only $1.19 at the time. But it doesn't matter if it's $1.19 or 1,000 or 19,000. You still want it. You still want to get what you're paying for. And I'm not really talking more so in terms of the price element of a process. I'm talking about taking care of it and assuring that their product is handled correctly.
Right. Yeah, there's a great saying now that we used to call it in the olden days the golden rule: treat people the way you want to be treated. But somebody finally figured out, it's like, well, why don't we treat people the way that they want to be treated? Because we're all different in some respects. So again, asking those questions, it helps us uncover clues about what's important to people and how that they expect to be treated as we go through this process, because it is a process. Unless you're just extremely lucky, and I've had a few of those where it's a one call close, but typically it is a process and we're just starting on the journey. We need to make that, get it right in our minds that this is just the beginning. And so how do we get through this?
Yep.
So one more thing that we talked about or wanted to talk about is speaking to groups. Kind of goes along with the, I guess it's kind of goes along with, but it's a little bit opposite of the professional referral. And that would be us as the marketing or sales professionals getting out and talking to, whoever your audience is, wherever your audience goes. But I'm thinking more like Kiwanis, professional organizations, chambers of commerce. Again, another chance to
The
get your
rubber
name
chicken
out.
circuit.
I'm sorry.
The rubber chicken circuit.
Yes, exactly. So, what kind of tips can you give us on, seeking out groups, talking to groups? I know you do a lot of that. So,
Well, I always tell my clients that, they can do it one of two ways. They can develop a database, if you will, of those civic organizations, and the best place to start with, I find, is going to your local chamber of commerce and just asking if they have a civic organization list. And most chamber of commerces have that available. And what I suggest is to obtain that list and then just go in and make sure it's up to date. Make sure you have the current president, the current program chair, all the relevant information. And when it's time, when you find that you need to start again getting on that circuit and making those presentations, just call. And it's as simple as, I would be honored to come and speak to your members at your next lunch. Or if you need to fill in, holler if you have someone cancel at the last minute. If it works for my schedule, I'll be right there.
always good to have something to take along with your name, something that you can hand out, actually put, in somebody's hand for them to walk out of the meeting with. Because, I've done that before. It's like somebody's talking to me and it's not registering, don't really know anybody, that I can't use the service, don't know anybody. Lo and behold, you walk out, get back to the office, or next time you're, at a friend's house, it's like, now I know who could use that. And so if I've got something on my desk or something I took away from it, I can go back and find the contact information. To me, it's very important to, be prepared, have not only business cards, but if you have like a one-sheeter about your community, your service, things that you do, very helpful.
And I like to take that a step further, Roy, and I like to provide, tips on, in this instance, what are the top 10 questions you must ask when visiting communities for a loved one, and have some facts on there. So they, again, your name and contact information may not be relevant immediately, like what you said, but these tips could be very relevant at the time, or someone else may find them relevant. And then at the bottom of it, again, is your contact information. So, and some people use recipes. I've seen them use, family favorite recipes, and, they put it in the recipe box or stick it on the refrigerator. So I think, again, I take it a step further, but I'm weird like that. I think there's some great opportunities to assure that it doesn't get lost in the clutter or thrown away.
Yeah, and that brings up a great point about the recipes. So here's a great story about follow-up. This has been about 6 years ago when I sold my house before I moved out to the lake. I talked to 5 or 6 different real estate agents, and I hadn't bought or sold a house in about 15 or 20 years. So I was like, I'm going to go over these, and I picked a younger. She was my age of a woman, but she was new in the business, so she was excited. She had a lot of energy, and I thought, well, this is going to do me the best, the service for me to help me get the best price. She was taking pictures and doing all this stuff. So then, as we go through the process, all of a sudden, she became the buyer's agent, not intentionally, but unintentionally, about, well, we need to do this and you should do this. And I'm like, hey, you need to remember you're on my side on this. You need to sell this property to them, highlighting all the good stuff, not the bad stuff, or me rebuild. Because if I'm going to rebuild it, I'll probably end up staying here anyway. But I have to put a lot of money in it. So, after about 5 or 6 months, we finally parted ways. There was another agent that I had originally interviewed every month, like clockwork. She sent me a recipe in the mail. And this was hard in the snail mail, the old fashioned way. She sent me a recipe that was written out by hand, as well as the comps for my neighborhood, as well as just some other real estate related stuff. And, she dripped on me for, this 5 or 6 month period. And so after after I parted with the initial one, I called her, hired her. If you can believe it, she sold the property for above what I was asking for it within a month.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was simply, and this wasn't in this frenzied buying and selling like's going on now. It was a much quieter time. But I think the lesson for me was that if this lady was willing to continue to market to me and to reach out and follow up, I knew that she was probably doing that with buyers as well. So anyway, we just can't underestimate that staying in touch, because sometimes even if a person moves into another community, maybe they're unhappy or something, but if we are continually reaching out, then we would be the first person that they think about if they need to make a change.
Yeah, I love drip campaigns, and I have used them myself and continue to, and encourage anyone that's in a sales role to find what they would be most comfortable with in terms of keeping their name top of mind.
Yeah.
And recipes are a great example. They're a fabulous example. I don't
Yeah,
cook, but
well, that's the important thing, is keeping top of mind, because like me, I remember who I've talked to last. And so if I haven't talked to you or heard from you, if I need your service, may not be that I don't like you or don't like your service. It may be that there's somebody else that's just fresher on my mind. And so that's the importance of, I think, that drip campaign, is just to stay out there and stay fresh. And there's so many tools. I mean, like this lady, she did it the old fashioned way. She did it pencil, paper, put it in the mailbox. But there are a lot of tools to help automate that, to make it easier to get our message out timely, monthly, and to a mass audience. So take advantage of that for sure.
yeah, but I think, I think the old fashioned snail mail way has tremendous value still.
Yes.
Tremendous value.
Yeah.
And, it's not the cheapest way to do it anymore. Certainly not the cheapest, but I think in some respects, it can be more impactful.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I don't have them in front of me, but there were some studies that showed that, especially for senior living, that snail mail was still one of the highest return rates, because we're putting something in somebody's hand. Maybe they put it on the kitchen refrigerator, and a lot of people aren't doing it. So our mail is not as cluttered. My mailbox is not nearly as cluttered as what it probably was 5 or 6 years ago.
Well, I'm not saying that this is a good option for your senior community audience, but look at this great piece that I got in the mail. It's a piñata, and it has candy in it, and there's the mailing label.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Isn't it though?
Yeah.
And I'll read it to you real quick, Roy. It says, "You shouldn't take candy from strangers. I guess that means if you want to eat what's inside of this piñata, we should get to know each other. Let's hop on a quick call."
That is awesome. Yeah, it is. And it doesn't even have to be that intricate, but the messaging in that is so creative. And, that's what we need to do, is think outside the box and develop those creative methods.
And that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Little plug.
Well, guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Denice, one thing I need to plan on, is we need to have just one episode where we talk about nothing but tools that sales and marketers can use. There's so many out there, and I get that question all the time, what do you use for this or that? So, anything from CRMs to the newsletter, emailers, you
Mhm.
know, all kinds of stuff like that. So we'll
I
need to
tell you
do
what, I want to offer your listeners something.
that. Okay.
And again, no commitment, no strings attached. But for your listeners who email you directly, I'd like to offer them the top 10 things to consider when looking at retirement communities for them to possibly hand out as another touch.
Okay. Great.
And then they can brand it themselves.
Okay. Yeah, and just send that email to roy@seniorlivingsalesandmarketing.com. If you send that, I will pass it to Denice and we will get that in your hand. That's a good
Yeah,
idea.
I'd be honored to send that to your listeners
Okay.
who
All right.
reply.
Well, tell everybody if they want to reach out to you directly, why don't you tell them how they can get a hold of you?
Thanks, Roy. Denice, and it's Denice Bailey, Bailey with D Bailey Group. It's dbailey.group.com. And I can be reached at D as in Denice, B as in Bailey at dbailey.group.com as well.
Thanks again for taking time out of your day and joining us. It was a good talk. We covered a lot of subjects, and if somebody wants to reach out to either one of us, we'd be glad to continue that conversation and be glad to help you out wherever we can. So until next time, again, this is Roy with Senior Living Sales and Marketing, and you can find us at www.seniorlivingsalesandmarketing.com. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Until next time, thank you.
Thank you.